Warning: the following contains explicit language and subject matter that may not be suitable for younger listeners, church folk, and people who enjoy kale smoothies.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to A Pod Amongst Men. I'm your host, Steve B., and this is Coffee Break Conversations for the 21st Century. Having a hard time talking there. Anyway, my guest today is Deon Curry. He's a stand-up comic from Indiana. He is one of the hosts of the PATDOWN with Miss Pat podcast. If you've never heard of Miss Pat, I don't know what rock you're living under, but he's also one of the hosts of Now That's Debatable on Facebook. I didn't really know Deon aside from listening to the show he's on, and he was super generous and super kind to come on and talk with me. We had a great conversation, so I'm not going to ruin it by running my mouth even more. Without further ado, here he is, Deon Curry. Anyway, so Deon, thank you very much, man, for agreeing to do the show with me. So
I appreciate you having me on.
Hey, man, I'm a big fan of your show. The Pat Down. I think.
Thank you. We're over a year in now.
Yeah, how many episodes? You guys actually started right around the same time I started this show. So I'm trying.
I think we're at 65, 66 episodes. I don't keep track. That's a Spangle thing.
So do you want to give like a brief intro as to who you are? Where people might know you from.
Okay. My name's Deon Curry. I've been doing stand-up comedy for 14 years. I am the co-host of the Pat Down podcast with Miss Pat and Chris Spangle. I also do a Facebook live show called Now That's Debatable every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern on Facebook with Sydney Smith and Stan Pearson. That's about it.
All right.
I'm based out of Indianapolis. That's my hometown. I was conceived in Oceanside, but I was birthed here. So I think that's where I got my talent from, is the sex in California.
I was going to say, not a lot of people know their conception story.
I was mad about it. My older brother was born in Oceanside, and then we moved to Indy right before I was born. So
I think I might get you beat. My dad told my mom he was sterile. She's like, no, don't worry, it's all good. And then 9 months later, there I was. The funny thing is, he told I'll give you a little background as myself. My old man had 4 wives, and he's had kids with every one of them. And it turns out that he told his second wife the same story, and she fell for it. Yeah. So me and him don't speak too much these days. It's been.
I understand that.
It's been a few years, but.
I hadn't seen my dad. My dad was on again, off again, a lot like herpes. For the most part, he was there when I was a kid, and then as I got into my teenage years, he kind of dipped off, and as an adult, I talked to him on holiday occasions, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah. What was your upbringing like? Like, you were raised in India and everything?
Yeah, so I've got 2 older brothers. I was 8 until I got my younger brother Eli. But it was good, man. Like, we were just poor Black people, We grew up on the East Side for like the first probably 6 years, and then in first grade we moved to the West Side with a little bit of a financial upgrade. My dad got a better job, and then we moved into our first house in 6th grade, and we had this huge plot of land. It was like 1.5 acres. And when you're not used to living in a house and you get all this yard, my dad was like, "You're going to love it." We fucking hated it. We had these big ass trees that shed all these goddamn leaves. So it was just yard work. Nothing but yard work. We lived in apartments our whole life. Never had to rake no leaves, never had to cut no grass. I tell you what, I've loved apartments ever since. I miss them. Somebody else come cut this goddamn grass.
I know that struggle, dude. Your dad goes, "Oh, you're gonna love it. You're gonna help me out," and all it ends up being is you trying to help and hold a flashlight and getting yelled at the whole time.
Absolutely, you're not doing it right.
Yeah,
I don't want to do it at all.
Hold the fucking flashlight still. What the hell's the matter with you? I'm sorry.
And nobody asked for all this yard. This was ridiculous. It was so much grass to cut. You spend like 2.5 hours cutting grass. It's not fun. It's annoying. And plus, if you have allergies, like freaking ridiculous.
I'm very allergic to grass myself. I've actually had this conversation with my wife. I'm a construction worker. I'm an electrician by trade, but you talk to a lot of guys, like blue collar guys. They always come home. They work on the house all the time. They always got projects started. I despise any kind of work on my house. Like, I don't want to do anything, even if I need to do it, because my whole upbringing, my dad always made me help him do stuff around the house, and it was always ending up with me getting yelled at. And I realized, like, later on in life, like, that's probably why, because I associate those two things.
Yeah, I'm not a manual laborer. I do not want to be fixing any. I pay people to do the shit I don't want to do. I tell jokes for a living. I'm not. I tell people all the time, if you need me to build a bridge, this is where we're gonna live, because we're not getting over there.
These hands are for writing, not for working.
Yeah, that's all they good for. Look at the scrawny little hands. Nah. So
mine aren't that big. My boxing career isn't going to stand a chance. There's a little sausage hands, but we can't all be blessed. So when you were young, coming up, do you remember, since you're a comedian, you're stand-up, you're comic, do you remember some comedians that influenced you? Like, because I always remember the first time I heard stand-up comedy, when I realized, this is a thing. You could just tell jokes. And I remember that changed, my mindset. And I started appreciating things. I heard Robin Williams. Eventually, I heard the Baby's Kids skit with Robin Harris.
Oh, yeah.
There's always...
This too, baby.
And then the movie came out, and I'm like, oh, that guy was just setting it up for the cartoon. I get it. But there's always, like, bits, I think, that kind of make that switch flip in people's heads. Do you remember, was there a time like that for you? Or was there a certain comic that inspired you?
We always watched Comic View as a family. Like, that was our thing. So I remember watching Comic View probably from 10, 11, 12 years old, watching it with my brothers and my dad. And I think that was really what put the comedy bug in me. When I was 4 years old, I wanted to be a brain surgeon. I told my dad this. And later on that day, I cut my finger and I passed out from the sight of the blood. And when I woke up, my dad was like, I guess you're not going to be a brain surgeon. And he was laughing. And I was like, wow, that's a really fucked up thing to say to your kid. But him laughing, I remember that moment specifically. Like, that was I like this feeling. I want to do this more. It was a good, even though my finger hurt, seeing my dad laugh as hard as he was laughing was like something that's always stuck with me. And I've always wanted to give people that feeling again. So, like I said, we watched Comic View, and then my oldest brother Michael, he was always the funny one. He was always cracking jokes when it was just him, and my older brother Justin. He was always making us laugh. So those two things are what really, really made me want to be funny. Like, I tried to emulate my oldest brother Michael, and then I got really, really good at it. Like, I got really good at making people laugh. And it wasn't until I turned 20 that I actually realized, this is something that I think I could do. I always thought comedy was you say it one time and then you move on. I had no idea how long, when you see people on TV every week, you're thinking, these guys they're all famous. You don't realize how much work, how many crap jobs, how many bar shows they've done. You don't know any of that.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you don't know anybody in the business and you're growing up and you're watching. You're just thinking, oh, that guy's on TV, so he must be living the life.
Yeah, what is your first, second time? You're out there, you're playing the Mirage. People think that it's just like you walking, hey kid, you want to tell jokes? There's somebody that's just gonna put you on all of a sudden.
I definitely thought it was just like that. Like, you go up, you be funny one time, and then you're a stand-up comedian, and then that's definitely not how it works. Most of the people you see on TV have been doing it at least 15 years.
Oh yeah, well that goes with a lot of things, especially musicians. I was in bands, and you have to start off. You're playing the bottom of the barrel places. You're playing like dive bars and sober living homes and stuff. Like, I played some weird places, but from all the comics I've talked to, it's all the very similar trajectory. you're still playing those hole in the wall places where there's like 6 people in the crowd, and it's a struggle at first. You know, you're really fighting tooth and nail.
You don't get really good until 5 years in, like where you find your voice. You spend a lot of your time trying to figure out what you and I always tell young comics, find somebody better than you to shadow and to learn from. That's how I did it. And anybody who tries to do it by themselves is going to waste a lot of time and energy and money. You cannot get better in the entertainment business without having a mentor. Like, you just, especially a stand-up, if no one's guiding you and telling you, hey, you should do this or hey, you should do that, you know, you waste so much time. I always tell people, start as soon as you can, get up as often as you can, and watch as much as you can. Those are the 3 things when it comes to stand-up.
So who was it that like inspired you? I know you said you watched Comic View, but do you have any particular, you know,
my
comedians?
favorite comic was Chris Rock. Like, he was the reason I started. Bring the Pain is like my all-time favorite special, because he was saying all the things that I was thinking. I was like, oh, I love this, you know. And then I did a retro thing where I got on, you know, older comics. Like, I love Richard Pryor. Eddie Murphy's Raw is one of my favorite specials, which is funny because most people are like, oh, I love Delirious. I'm like, I hate Delirious, but I love Raw.
Raw is good, especially for me. I'm Italian, like the whole Rocky bit. Yeah. Anytime
hey,
Rocky, yeah, I went to see Rocky on Broadway, and when we were in the theater, I was going, "All right, Rocco, dude." Nobody got it. Nobody got it. Yeah, I was so heartbroken. I'm a big fan of
bonbons here.
Yeah, get some Juji fruits and. I'm not saying the next part, but
yeah.
But
so,
I'm a big fan of just dropping like movie lines and random like situations.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge quoter, huge quoter. So yeah, like Robin Harris's special, Bernie Mac, his first Def Jam special. I ain't scared of you motherfuckers. Like, those were some of the ones that, you know,
I'm big bone.
I really love.
I'm blessed.
Yeah. So we do this Dead Comics party here in Indy every year. And a couple of years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago, I did Bernie Mac. And I did part of that routine, and it fucking crushed. It's one of the favorite shows I've ever done. So.
I love, you know, just reciting movie lines, stand-up comic lines. It's one of we could sit here and do the whole podcast with nothing but that. And I feel like it would actually be really entertaining for people. But yeah, so do you remember like when you first actually let's go back to before comedy started. You said you were 20 when you first realized, you know, you can go up on stage. What kind of stuff did you do before that as far as work? Like, what kind of jobs did you have? Like,
okay, so it took me forever to get a legitimate like 9-to-5 job. So I applied everywhere. I started applying at jobs when I was 14. I tried to work at Burger King, Blockbuster, grocery store. Nobody would hire me. They all said the exact same thing. You need more experience. And I'm like, well, how the fuck do you get experience if nobody will give you a chance? You know what I mean? Nobody wanted to hire me. So fast forward to I was probably 17, 18, Indiana Black Expo, Tom Joyner morning show. I got paid $120 to be Tony the Tiger for like 4 hours. And so I put on this giant Tony the Tiger suit. The helmet weighed like 40 pounds. And it was hot. It was like 110 degrees. I got all this cooling stuff strapped to me, and you know, I'm walking around. It's like 4 a.m. People are outside lined up to get into the thing, and I'm you know, just being Tony the Tiger without talking. And there's a bunch of badass kids out there pulling on my tail and stepping on my feet. You know, so that was the first like paid job that wasn't, you know, like selling newspapers with my dad or something like that. That was the first paid job I had. I think I was 17 or 18. Okay. Like, yeah, it took me forever to get work. And then I had a substitute teacher in high school who he Mr. Blair. I don't know if you ever had. Are you from Indy?
No, I'm from New Jersey.
Okay, so
I'm still
a
waiting for
local
you and Miss
substitute.
Pat to come to New Brunswick to the Stress Factory.
She was just there earlier this year. She played played Howie Mandel's club.
Where's that? Where's this at?
It's up north. It's northern New Jersey.
Oh, I
forget the name of it.
I'm like smack dab right in the center of the state. I'm sorry to cut you off. So
no, anyway, he gave me a job like working around his house, and then he was friends with a man who owned his own business, this Georgetown Market. It's a health food store here, and that was my first job. I got hired there when I was 18. I just worked in the grocery department, like stocking shelves, and I eventually worked there till I was 21. And that's when I started stand up, when I turned 21. So my job experience, like I did odd jobs until one guy took a flyer on me. I worked that job for 3 years straight. I loved it. I still go back to that store every now and then. And, that was my intro into the workforce.
I had a lot of odd jobs in my day. I became an electrician at like 21. But before that, I was all over. I worked at Barnes & Noble. I worked at my first real job, aside from working for my father. Yeah, I worked at a bagel shop. That was my first job, and I worked. There was like two owners, and one guy was like a major cokehead. I think he like lost half the money for the business. But over the course of like all the random odd jobs I've had, there's always like stories and like weird people and like interesting people. Do you remember anything or anyone that stood out from those years that you were working odd jobs? I know, for instance, let me get you started to kind of wet the palate. I worked at one point at a plant where it was like a steel manufacturing plant, and there was a guy that worked in like the back. His nickname was Lefty, and he had all the fingers on one hand were missing, like down to the palm almost. So of course they nicknamed him Lefty. But he was he was a real nice guy, but he was a little weird. He's a little like squirrely looking dude. And I remember him telling me.
What happened? Was he holding fireworks? What happened?
Nah, it was like a buzzsaw. He was like a table saw accident, I think. I don't know. I heard a few stories that I'm not really sure which one ended up being true. But I just remember he was like one of those guys where he's a little off. So people would kind of ask him like leading questions to see what kind of weird answer he would have. And I just remember them always asking him about like, if you've ever went to a hooker and all this stuff. I kind of feel bad now. I mean, not that I think he's going to listen, but I hate to like make fun of the guy, but he was nice to me. But he, you don't forget someone like that.
I don't think I worked with any like super quirky dude. Like, okay, so I know a bunch of shady people. Like
that counts.
I always wanted to work at Blockbuster. Like that was my thing. Like I wanted to work at a video game store. It was either Blockbuster or Family Video or Indie Video. Like I loved being around movies and video games, and that's always what I wanted to do. So I would apply for Blockbuster every 6 months, and they'd always tell me no. So my buddy got a job there, and he used to steal his ass off. You slide him $20 and he'd get you whatever the hell you wanted. So he worked there for probably, I don't know, 8 months, and he used to get me so many GameCube games and GameCube controllers. He was a super, super shady dude, and I have since quit stealing.
We all grow up after a while,
Yeah, it was bad. I tell you, one time I worked at Walmart for a month before they knew I worked there.
Yeah, you're gonna have to elaborate on that one.
So I, before this Walmart got built, like my aunt was the reason that the new Walmart was being built where it was, and so like I filled out all the paperwork to get the job, and they were like, "Cool, you're hired, just show up when we open." They didn't give me any training. They didn't send me to another Walmart to learn anything. And this was like 2 months before the store opened. So 2 months goes by, the store opens, and I go in there on the first day, and they're like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, I'm Deon. I got the job. They're like, "Oh, okay." And so they're like, "Watch this training video." And then nobody comes, like they give me the little, like my clock in information and everything. So I clock in, nobody's paying any attention to me. So I'm like, all right, well, the video's over. I just went home. I went home I came back like 4 hours later to clock out for lunch. And then I took a 30-minute lunch. And then I clocked back in for the next 4 hours. And I did that for over a month before anybody was like, hey, who are you? What are you doing? I probably worked there another 2 weeks and then I quit. So Walmart was paying me literally to go home for a month. I was making like $9 an hour.
Hey,
so,
easy money, baby.
Yeah, I felt really shitty afterward. Like, oh, this is terrible. I hate thieves. So,
listen, you're a young man. The key is we all grow from these experiences, right? And
yeah, definitely would never do it again and not recommend it. But yeah, I was a piece of shit for about a month.
Who among us hasn't done a shady thing here and there? Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that myself. But anyway, moving on. So now you're a stand-up comic, okay? We've heard you now on the Pat Down. Very smart, very entertaining guy. In this social climate, cancel culture is like a big thing. Like, do you ever, like, how do you brush up on topics that are right on the line? You know what I mean? Like that the whole like edginess is because.
So there's a difference between attacking somebody and telling a joke. Now, if you're out there attacking people, you can expect to be canceled. But if you're bringing up a topic that needs to be talked about and you're doing it in a way that, just shines light on said topic, then I think you're fine. Our job isn't to make you upset. Our job is to make you laugh. So I have to write my joke in a way that makes you think and laugh, not be offended. Anybody can say something offensive. There's no talent in that. That's how you can tell who's a talented comedian and who's not. If I'm just up there saying offensive things to say offensive things, then you can hear that any place you go. You can go to a barbershop, you can go to a barbecue, and you're going to hear that low quality crap. But if I can make you think about, oh, I never thought of it that way. That's fucked up, but it's funny. Then I've done my job.
Yeah, it's like people are paying to see you. If all they're going to give them is something they can hear on, some Reddit conversation somewhere, what's the point?
Absolutely. There's no
in the house.
Yeah, there's no entertainment value in hearing low-hanging fruit. Like,
how often do you see that? Because I know you see it obviously online. These fucking like edgelord guys who just want to. It's like that shock jock mentality. They want to shock you, and they think that can take the place of actually being funny. Like, is that something you see often nowadays, or people
when you do open mics? Yeah, there's always at least 2-3 guys who have no idea what they're doing, and they're just up there saying what they think is funny. I mean, it's super prevalent when you first start out because you don't know any better. But there's always like 2 or 3 guys who, you'll tell them, hey, you're just saying shock things. You're not really being funny. If you want to be funny, then you need to do this, and they'll blow you off. And then those are the guys, and these guys are in every scene. They go nowhere. They do the same 5 minutes of shitty comedy. They don't get any better, and everybody else in the scene hates their guts. And then they'll be the ones online talking about, oh, comedy is so political, blah blah blah. It's like, no, dude, you just suck.
A lot of I listen to a lot of comedians, and a lot of one of the things you hear all the time is that comedians, like, our job is to make you think, like you said, to push the envelope. How much value do you put in actually finding topics that maybe even skirt the line, but like, I feel like some people look at it as a challenge where it's I'm going to come as close as I can to the line, but not go over it, so that you're not actually offended. You are thinking. Like, it's
got to be within your personality. I think, like, it has to fit your character. If your jokes are all about your life, and then you throw in something that you've never experienced, I mean, it shines big time. You you have to find a balance. If your whole set is sex jokes, and then you try to talk about politics at the end, well, people are going to be like, what? That doesn't, it doesn't mesh. So you have to find that balance. A lot of comics like they'll do topical stuff and that's fine, but you can tell how deep they go. Like if you don't have a message behind what you're saying, then the audience picks up on it right away, you know.
People can sense that, like that lack of authenticity.
Yeah, it falls flat. If you're just trying to say something that's shocking, if you're just trying to say something to make people think, but it doesn't fit with what you've been doing, what, you know, the crowd's used to hearing from you, then there's this disconnect that it's really, really hard to connect with people when that's not who you are. Like, I have this bit that's got me kicked out of a couple comedy clubs. They're like, don't come back with that joke because it's very, very edgy. I say the word retard in it, and people get so offended by that. But the joke basically is about calling something what it is. Because when you say something's retarded and it's not retarded, well, then you've taken away, you've got a whole different meaning of what I'm talking about. Like, I'm talking about a very specific thing, and I'm not demeaning anybody. I'm just labeling it what it is so we all understand what I'm talking about.
That's a weird one, because it's like, that's not even a word that, you know, the whole, like, that used to be a medical term, and like we don't use it that way anymore. So I don't understand what the, like, who's actually getting offended by that?
Non-retarded people. And I say that in the joke. I go, you know, if you understand what I'm saying, then I'm not talking about you, because obviously you get what I'm talking about. Like, that's the beauty of it.
Is that something you come into that comes into play a lot? People being offended on behalf of someone else.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at the whole, you know, cancel culture is all about that. You know, I'm offended that you would say that about somebody. I'm like, well, what does that somebody feel? Who cares what just because you feel something doesn't mean it needs to be canceled. Like, feelings don't matter at all.
Well, that's people trying to make everything about themselves.
Yeah. Like, I get being upset. I get, but like, if you're not in physical danger, you'll be okay. Like, you'll be all right. Like, feelings change just like your appetite. One day you feel Pizza Hut, the next day you feel Taco Bell. Like, you'll be okay.
I feel like it's a weird time. Like, I mean, how old are you, by the way?
I'm 35.
Okay, so we're the same age. Like, we come from a generation where, you know, like, I grew up, I liked, like, guys like George Carlin, you know, like, even like Pryor, guys that would say stuff that, you know, they were pushing the edge, and the people that had a problem with what we were doing were usually, you know, maybe politically on the opposite side. Like, you know, I'm a left-leaning guy, and it seems like things have shifted in our lifetime, where it's like now the people on our side are the ones who are trying to, you know, like, I don't want to sound like, you know, these typical, like, douchebags online, like, oh, everybody's trying to take away our free speech. It's not that, but I feel like we're the sensitive ones now, when it used to be we were telling the church people, like, why don't get so offended, change the channel, you know? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so here's the thing, like, with the whole LGBTQ movement, like, people's awareness of how what you say affects someone else's life, I think that's where, because now we have cameras on everything. Like, everybody's walking around with a camera in their pocket, so we can see how what we say affects people's lives. Like, just take a look at the whole statues, for example. Like, you got people who are literally going out with guns to keep statues around. It's like, dude, this person wouldn't even like you. Like, why are you out here with a gun? But because people are saying, hey, this changes my life, they're like, no, I don't want to give you that. I don't want you to be as comfortable as I am. So I think what the problem becomes is that we're trying to make it so that everybody in society is comfortable, where I can say something to you, and because I understand what you go through, I have the ability to be like, you know what, I don't need to say that anymore. Like, I think that's the huge disconnect, is where people just want to be able to say whatever they want to say without respecting somebody else's feelings. Like, you can be a dick, but why if you don't need to? You know what I mean? Like, there should be no space for public dickishness. If you want to be in your house and you want to be a dick, that's fine. But like, when we're out in public spaces, like, dude, just come on, let them use whatever bathroom they need to use, and just like that, it's not costing you anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, if you really look around, most of the people that are out there publicly being a dick are dudes, and I mean, obviously the term Karen has become popular for a reason also, but a lot of the times it's us. Us as men, we're the angry ones, and I feel like there's a severe lack of empathy. Like that's something that a lot of guys never learn growing up, and that's why they don't want to be made to feel uncomfortable because of like, oh, well, something I did had a negative effect on you, and that doesn't feel good because now that makes me feel bad. So I'm just going to choose to ignore it, and I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to pretend like you don't exist and that your feelings don't matter. I feel like that's a thing that's severely lacking in our society.
Yeah, there's a lot of toxic masculinity walking around where you got to be tough for no reason. It's like, why are you being like, it's okay to cry, dude.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, look at the way we all react to something like that. There's a lot of women that would even like see a guy crying, like, they're not gonna say like in the movies, like, oh yeah, oh he's so sensitive. There's a lot of women like, yo, what the fuck is your problem? Like, man up.
It's weird because like the women who say man up are the ones who get punched in the face, and it's like, like, what do you want? You can't have your cake and eat it too. So this whole man up thing, I don't like. Just because you have a penis doesn't mean you got to be tough. Like I don't understand that. Like, well, what we allow strangers to put on us, I don't understand. Like you're never gonna upset me by saying I'm soft if I don't know you. Like I don't care what your perception is of me as you walk away. You can call me all the names in the world. That like you don't know me, so clearly you're just basing it off whatever toxic trait that you're used to. Like I don't have time for that.
Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with the term man box?
No, so, what's that?
It's like the idea that as men, there's a certain a set of allowed rules, like that we as men allow each other to do, like a types of like a list of behaviors. All these things fit inside this little box. So as a man, you're only allowed to do this. You're not allowed to cry. That's outside the box. You're allowed to be tough. The only emotion you're allowed to show is, anger. You're allowed to cry at, at maybe funerals and at the Grand Canyon, and that's it. And then, but all these little things we're allowed to do are inside this little box. And because we only allow these small set of, rules and behaviors, we severely limit our growth as human beings. Like, we're all human first. Like, never mind what, we think, maybe 100 years ago, as a guy, like you had to adhere to these rules because it was a tougher world. There was a lot less things you can get away with being and survive and protect a family. But it's 2020 now, and the world's a very different place, and we're still using the same box full of all these same old rules that maybe worked then, but just don't work now.
I think we're just tough about things we don't need to be tough about. It's like, why are you putting a wall up on feeling good? Like crying is healthy. Like it's a healthy emotion to release stress. Like women do it to feel better. Men should be able to feel better about being able to cry. Like and it becomes a competition. Oh, I can't let this other man see me cry because if I do, then it shows weakness and he has domination over me. And it's like, well, you're not really competing against that guy in life. Like, your emotions, you're carrying around a competition that is killing you. It's literally killing you. It's making your life worse because you're competing with a guy who you may see one time in your entire life. Like, that's just dumb to me. I don't understand that. I emote how I need to emote and I keep it moving. If you're not in my circle, then I'm not concerned about your opinion on my manhood because people are going to talk about you anyway.
That's
so
true.
Why even bother? Why waste the time getting upset and putting up a front and not being who you are? Look, just go look at any comment section on the internet. You're going to find people talking shit just because they can. So why worry about folks you don't know, and what they have to say? It's not a big deal.
I'm very much reminded, you reminded me of two separate stand-up bits. But one of them was Cat Williams. He says, I know as a black man in America, you got to be hard, but you don't have to be hard all the time.
Yeah.
Like, damn, you gangbanging on
Going
bacon?
over breakfast. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like I don't have the energy to be tough all the time. I really don't.
And Bill Burr had a bit too, talking about being in like a sad movie with his girlfriend, and everybody else is crying, and he's got to think of some like horrible stuff, and he's laughing. So why are you laughing? Because I'm not allowed to show emotion. I'm not allowed.
Yeah.
But that's true. We internalize that stuff our whole life, and it's hard to break out of that mentality. And I feel like we're very programmed, and that runs real deep.
And the minute you bring it up is people attack you. Oh, you're soft. Oh, you're a crybaby. Blah blah blah. Everybody gets a participation trophy. It's like, dude, there's nothing wrong with the participation trophy if that's all you want to do is participate. Like that's fine. It's not a big deal. Well, why we make such a big deal out of everything?
It's not okay a participation trophy if you're talking about the Confederacy, because the flag is the participation trophy along with their friggin'
I don't
statues.
have a problem with people flying the flag as long as they accept what it means. Like if you want to be an asshole, but don't tell me you're not an asshole when you do asshole things.
Touche.
That's my only issue with all this dumb shit people say is like, just call it what it is. That's my whole point of the retard bit. It's like, just call it what it is so I can know and we can operate on the same wavelength. Like I can be empathetic towards your racism. Like I get why you want to be racist. You think you're better. That's fine. You can think that. What you can't do is have power and public position. That's all. Like, I don't want to stop you from being who you are. If that's what you want to do, as long as you're not hurting anybody else, live your life. I don't give a shit. You don't have to like me, or because my skin is black. Like I said, I don't have time for that. I'm not going to see you every day. I'm not going to deal with you every day. I got other shit I want to accomplish. I don't give a fuck about you. Just don't hurt anybody, and you can feel how you want to feel.
Yeah, since you brought up racism, so on the Pat Down, obviously Miss Pat is she's the star of the show, but then you and Chris Spangle are her two co-hosts, and I really got to say, over the course of all the episodes you guys have done, hearing the way you and Chris have kind of developed at least what sounds like a friendship and like a level of understanding, it makes me feel hopeful for the broader population, where it's not really so much that you two were so far apart on stuff, but it's like you're able to find a way to I don't know, kind of like to bridge that divide. You know what I mean?
Well, I'll tell you what it is. I think we understand each other now. And in the beginning, we didn't have an understanding of each other's position. More specifically, I don't think Chris understood where we were coming from. Mm-hmm. And I think with him having more and more conversations where he was allowed to ask questions without fear of being ridiculed or beat down or hated, he was able to open up more. And with him opening up more, what it did for me was it made me realize, oh, he's not hateful. He didn't know. He had no idea. And I think that's really where this country is a lot of people are ignorant to what they don't know. And then on the other side of this, Black people are fed up with people not knowing. So it's like, you want to have that conversation, but you're both angry because they don't know. And they're like, why are you mad at me for not knowing? It's like, because you didn't take the time to know. And it's like, well, they don't know to take the time to know.
Yeah,
it's
you
like,
don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. So you can't be mad at them. But at the same time, it's like you've got all these years of saying, hey, this is how we're living. This is how we're living. Mm-hmm. And people, instead of listening and hearing that and go, oh, let me investigate it, they say, no, we're past that. And it's like, that's where we bump heads. And I think with the Pat Down, we've been able to, somewhat show that, hey, if we sit down and we have a real, genuine conversation, we can learn a lot from each other. We can learn what we don't know. We can see a different perspective. And, I applaud Chris for not running away and for taking those lumps in the beginning.
I mean, I've actually heard Chris's name mentioned on other podcasts. I know there's so one of the shows I listen to is a show called The Fifth Column, and some of the guys are libertarian on there. and they were talking about the Libertarian candidate for president, Joe Jorgensen, I believe. I don't know what the name is, but her basically coming out in support of Black Lives Matter, and all the Libertarians were mad, and they actually mentioned Chris Spangle. They said, "Oh, Chris Spangle is saying, it's really telling how many Libertarians have such a problem with this, basically in support of Black Lives Matter." And it seems like a very different guy from the days of, "Oh, fuck you, Deon." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you notice you both have grown from it? Or?
Well, I mean, we've spent a year seeing each other at least once a week. So we've talked, we've experienced things together, we've traveled together, we've stayed in hotel rooms together. So we've had time to not just talk about what's going on in the world, but get to learn and know each other. And he's got a good heart, and that's all you can really ask for. We are not always going to agree on everything. I'm a socialist. I'm a democratic socialist. I think that we should all share everything we have because we're not competing against each other. We're all one big family, and life is better when you have more friends. That's just how I view things, where other people are like, no, I want to be number one. And if I'm not number one, my life is shit. And it's like, okay, that's a thing. I don't understand it, but whatever. Chris is a libertarian, and, but at the same time, it's like, dude, how can you be a libertarian when not everybody in this country has liberty? That doesn't even make any sense to me. We have a party of libertarians when not everybody has liberty. And then they're arguing over Black Lives Matter. It's like, what?
Well, it's kind of like that says, it's like, well, we just want everybody to be left alone. It's like, yeah, but some people need some help. You can't leave them alone. That's
because when you do leave people alone, you see the worst in folks. It's they want small government. I go, government's only function is to check people who can't check themselves. That's the only function government is supposed to have. It's like, when you do something out of bounds with the collective society, they're supposed to check you. That's all they're supposed to do. So Chris is always harping, the police state, and we need fewer police. And I'm like, look, we don't need fewer police. We just need police to stop being dicks. We don't have to.
Better police.
The system's not that fucked up. It's just we just need to make a few Apple upgrades and we'll be okay.
Might be more than a few, but we do.
Well, I mean, you get rid of the systemic racism and you get rid of the income inequality, and America's a great place to live.
I think that one is probably going to have a huge effect. The income inequality. You talk about getting money out of politics, that kind of thing. I think you fix that, you fix a myriad of other things.
Definitely. Because money trickles down into money is the deciding factor on most decisions. I mean, look at racism never went away. It just started costing people money. So they found a better way to hide it. That's all.
I like that.
Companies don't stop being racist. Their bottom line's affected, and so they get rid of the people who are racist, or they find a better way to hide it. That's all.
Or they kind of just pander to people. It's like, oh,
yeah.
Look how great we are.
They'll get rid of Paw Patrol, but they won't punish the cops who are doing bad shit. Focus on the issue, and that's why we keep dealing with the same things over and over and over again. It's because they would rather hide it than deal with it.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about that? I always hear a lot of people. Oh, we're going to cancel these shows, but we're not going to actually, we're not going to arrest the cops who killed Breonna Taylor. And I always say, those aren't the same people doing each of those things. Don't get mad at.
It's the same thing with people saying Black Lives Matter is Marxist, and I'm like, okay, maybe that specific organization, but the slogan fits. Yeah. So, do Black Lives matter? Yes, they do. And are you doing everything you can to make sure that Black Lives matter? You don't have to don't donate money to the organization if you believe them to be Marxist. That's fine. You can do two things.
Yes.
You can believe Black Lives Matter, but not give the organization a dime because they don't fit whatever political scheme you think they have. That's fine. As long as you are enacting policy change to show that Black Lives matter, then fine.
I like that. I mean, because my wife and her family are from Cuba, so we have a kind of a sensitive spot when it comes to socialism, even though I was a Bernie Sanders guy, but that was another long conversation. But I like that idea of, as long as you agree that the principle is true, Black Lives Matter doesn't mean you have to support a group. As long as you enact the idea, as long as you enact that in your daily life and you make an effort to live up to that. I
think the grouping is what causes the big issue, because you get people within the group who don't check the group, and then they're putting a bad mark on the group. It's like, no, I agree with the idea that Black Lives Matter, but I don't think we need to be blocking freeways. Like, just there's other ways to accomplish our goal. Like, I haven't done the research, but the reason why Black Lives Matter even became a thing is because nothing was being done about all these police killing Black people. Like, so you don't have to like the slogan. Just stop the police from doing it, and guess what? The slogan goes away. If you don't like something, then fix the cause of the dislike. Yeah. And for whatever reason, when it comes to race in this country, we want to focus on everything else instead of just being like, you know what? I don't understand you because you come from a different place than me, and that's why I don't like you. Like, we're programmed via television and media to dislike our neighbor. It was like, poor people all share the same. They should all hate rich people. Like, the whole $600 unemployment, where people are like, oh, I'm tired of these people getting $600 a week. That's too much. They don't want to go back to work. And I'm like, it's their money.
Yeah, they're already paying into the system.
Yeah, it's their money. We should get that. You shouldn't be mad at me. You should be mad at the CEO who, instead of giving me a raise, is buying another yacht. Like, that's who you should be mad at.
That's true.
You guys get pizza parties instead of extra $600 on your check. Yeah, it's like you're mad at the wrong people, but because we're in proximity, it's easier to get mad at me than the boss of your company.
No. So in times like this, where stuff is so tense and there's so much anger and partisanship and politicization, polarization, there's a lot of P words. But do you find that comedy it acts as a bridge, or does it end up kind of being more divisive? Do you find that people are able more to laugh at maybe at themselves?
Oh, it's funny when I do any Trump material, there's an obvious divide in the crowd. Like, whenever you bring up, whenever I start the Republican portion of the show, there's an audible puckering of assholes. Which is funny because people on the other side are always into it. And then when I flip it and start talking shit about the Democrats, you don't hear the puckering of the assholes, but you can feel the assholes loosen after I stop talking about Republicans. So it's weird that way. Like, Democrats are always on board until you flip it on them. And then they're like, oh, I can't believe it. And I was like, I was literally just doing that and you were cheering it. And now when it's flipped on you, you don't want to hear it. You're clutching
your pearls.
Yeah, it's like, no, you don't get to do that. Like, and I think that's the biggest faux pas for liberals is we always point out, hey, this person did that, but then when we do it, it's like, oh, well, how dare you? And it's like, yo, if you use the tools of your enemy, you are your enemy. So.
Well, I mean, that is kind of the thing. Like, we all like a joke until it's about us, And
I had to learn that, man. I'm like, especially doing this podcast, and with as much shit as Miss Pat talks shit about me, like I was taking things personally from strangers online who were just repeating what she says. And it's like, there was a huge rift there for a while. I was like, yo, I need you to chill out because people are attacking me because they're comfortable. Mm-hmm. Like you're comfortable. And I'm like, I don't want people being comfortable attacking me the way I've known you for 14 years. They don't know me at all. And I don't want people, I don't want my inbox full of people thinking they can say whatever the fuck they want to me just because you say whatever the fuck you want to me. Like, but that's not cool.
That's the fucked up thing with podcasts, is that we hear you guys every week, and to us it almost feels like we're in the conversation. We know you guys, we're hearing all this stuff, you guys are telling stories, but then it's easy to forget. It's like, no. Nobody knows who the fuck I am. Like, I can't just walk up, put my arm around stuff. Yo, hey, what's going on, Deon? How you doing? You're gonna look
Yeah,
at me. I would be justifiably tased at that point. You know.
it's so weird. Like, lots of people hear our voices, and lots of people think we're celebrities. But I'm like, dude, I'm just a regular guy. I'm not a celebrity. I don't want to be a celebrity. Just treat me with respect. Like, you can message me. I'll talk to you. You know, as long as we have that boundary of respect. I never, ever, ever pick on people who don't deserve to be picked on, because there's no need to do that. Like, I don't understand. Like, people, this really happened a lot, like last year, where people would message me, "Fuck you, Deon," because Miss Pat says "fuck you" all the time, right? And I'm like, I had to tell these people, you know, yo, I don't know you like that. And until I know you like that, don't come at me like that. Why would you do that? I don't understand that. You know, this is Dave Chappelle with the whole "I'm Rick James" bitch. It's like, come on, man, I'm with my kids. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I know exactly what you mean.
They don't understand that boundary, which is weird.
Well, it's tricky too, because nowadays with social media, like, you're literally just a message, a DM away, you know. And if you're cool enough to actually respond to fans and listeners, like, to them, that's the greatest thing. I sent Miss Pat a DM when you guys first started the show. She was talking about Jack the Ripper, and there was some movie where he would lure chicks with like fruit and
grapes.
Stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know that's from the movie From Hell with Johnny Depp. I seen that, and I DM'd her that, and she responded. I was like, yo, I just talked to Miss Pat. Like, but it's a weird thing, because it's like, to her, like, she was just, you know, being friendly and showing appreciation to a fan. But to me, like, that made my day, you know? So it's a tricky thing, especially, I know you say you don't want to be a celebrity, but as that show grows in popularity, to a lot of us, you are, you know? And
then, you know what? I don't handle it well. I really don't. Like, I need celebrity classes, because I talk to people. I'm just not an asshole. That's my whole thing, is like, I'm not gonna be a dick. Like, if you message me and I get the message, you know, I'll respond to you. You know, now I'm not gonna spend all day talking to you. Like, there are some people that have just like constantly messaged me, and it's like, yo, like, you know, I've got shit to do, right? You know, I get that you want to be cool, and we're cool, but, you know, I need that little bit of space. You know what I mean? So it's just a learning curve, because I remember Don Cheadle retweeted me one time, and dude, I'm a huge Don Cheadle fan. That made my week. I was on cloud nine for forever. I pinned the tweet for like a month. I was like, this is awesome, you know. And I messaged him and got nothing back. So.
Then that sucks, because you don't want to believe the person's a dick, but it's like, you know, I'm probably one of like 10,000 people that sent him a message. I'm sure he never even saw the message, because he's fucking Don Cheadle, and like, to an extent, I get it, because I get a ton of messages too. So it's not that I didn't take it personally. Like, I think fans need to learn that, you know, don't take it personally. Like, it's not, unless I specifically say fuck you, it's not a fuck you to you. It's just, you know, no, I totally understand. There's too many to respond, you know. So I would never forgive myself if we got towards the end of the show and I didn't at least ask a little bit about what your journey with Miss Pat has been like. You know, like, she's such a big personality, you know, especially if if you've read her story and her book and everything. Like, she seems like one of a kind. Like, how has she been an impact on your life? So it's funny, when the first time I met Miss Pat, I met her at an open mic. There was probably 12 comics on the show and like maybe 15 people in the crowd. Like, it was a really small show, but she went up, she was before me, and she destroyed, like, absolutely crushed. And then I went up afterward, and I spent my whole 5 minutes talking about how funny she was. Yeah. It was like, man, I was like, I'd give up my time to hear some more of that. That shit was hilarious. Excuse me. And so after that show, we started talking, and we became friends. The club owner hated both of us. He's a black comic, and he hated that we were, you know, other black comics that were funny. He, you know, for whatever reason, I could not tell you why. Is that he hated us? Is that a thing? Because you're not the first black comic that I've heard say the same thing. Yeah, unfortunately it is a thing. Like, so he was
the owner, but he didn't actually own the club. He had business partners, and they were the money behind it, and he was the sweat equity. He was there to work and whatever. But he was a comic too, but he wasn't that good. And it wasn't like we hated him. Like, we looked up to him. He owned the club. He was our end guy. He was a really, really, really good writer. Like, he thought funny. He just didn't perform funny, which is, not everybody's a stand-up comedian. Some people are just writers.
That was his curse. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, and so he would see us get success on stage, and then he would go up and he wouldn't get that same success. And I don't know if that made him bitter or whatever, but he would always talk shit about me and Pat, and that's kind of how we bonded. Like, what fucked up thing did he say to you this week? And so, we bonded over the mutual hate that we got from him, and the fact that we respect each other talent wise. Like, we make each other laugh all the fucking time. She cracks me up, I crack her up. She calls me anytime, and we shoot the shit. She's like a genuine friend. She's a genuine person. Like, what you see with Miss Pat is what you get. Like, I had to learn, because she can be a little
intense.
What's the word? Yeah, blunt. She can be blunt, but it doesn't come from a place of trying to hurt your feelings. Like, now she can joan the fuck out of you, but if she's joning you, it's because she cares about you. Like, what I mean? It comes from a friendly place. So we spent the 14 years getting to know each other and being bonded over that negative experience, to where, now we've grown and into the podcast, and I open for her on the road, and there's rarely a day where I go without talking to her.
If you could go back to 20, 21 years old, first starting out as a comic, and as a human, as a adult, knowing what you know now, what do you think you would tell yourself?
Focus. Invest in Twitter. Like,
buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, like I would be like, oh man, yeah, this is gonna be a huge thing. Like, comedy's weird. There's so many different avenues for it now. We're just waiting for the next person to find a way to make Zoom shows awesome, and then that's gonna be a thing. I think I would just tell my younger self to focus. I wasn't really focused. I wasn't focused on making comedy a living. I just wanted to be good at it. I wanted respect from my peers. That's all I want. That's the only reason I started going back to comedy. I love making people laugh. Like, I don't have to make money off of it. I could be making a lot of money off of it. And if I focused on that in the beginning instead of just being funny, I think I'd be a lot further along. And so that's probably what I tell myself, is like, yo, you can make a real legitimate career out of this if you, put more effort in the business side of it. But for me, it wasn't a business decision. It was, this is a thing I love to do. I love making people laugh. So. All
right. Well, we're getting close to the end here. The last thing we're gonna discuss is a segment of the show I call Humble Pie, where myself and the guest, we share an embarrassing story. Sometimes we learn something from it. Sometimes, hey, it just sucked to be you that day. But to start off, I'll go first. I have one ready that I had actually forgotten about for a few years. So around 2015, 2014, a buddy of mine got married, and I was single at the time. So I went to the wedding, and I used to love to dance. Like, I grew up. My biological father, when I was a little kid, he had a pickup truck. He'd always play the Thriller cassette tape, and I grew up. I loved Michael, so I knew the dances. I could moonwalk. I could do the whole routine, and it was like a novelty. Like, I would go out plays, like, oh, look at this white guy that could do the dance. You know what I mean? Like, it was always like an icebreaker. So at this wedding, naturally I go out there, start doing my thing, but I happened to be especially tuned up. I had a lot of drinks that night. And I tried to sweat a lot of it out, but I was still feeling it. So I was doing the thing, and, he does the spin, and he does the pose on the toes. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I went to do that, and I guess the shoes I was wearing just weren't cut out for it. So when I put my weight down on my toes, I hit so hard that I broke like multiple toes, like on each foot. And I was drunk, so like I felt it, but it wasn't enough to kind of knock me down.
Oh.
So as soon as I did it, like I just kind of like, like strutted off and went to my buddy. And I was like, yeah, I broke my toes. And he goes, what? So my toes, they're broken on both feet. I think I got to go. And I had to leave. So, I had to go sit down. And, after the wedding, everybody's back at the hotel bar. And I'm limping bad. I could barely walk. Like I literally had to have my friend. I was like, going around like little Methuselah. The next day, my feet were just completely black and blue. Like the bottom of my foot, the top of my foot, just fucked up. And everybody sees me limping around, going for like the continental breakfast the next day. They go, "Oh, you were so great last night, man." I was like, "Thanks." Kind of paying the price now. So I learned my lesson to take it easy a little bit with that.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like the most. I can tell you about the worst set I've ever had, and this is Miss Pat's fault. So the worst set I ever had, it was in Columbus, Ohio. It was a Thursday night, chocolate Thursday. Miss Pat was supposed to be there, but she couldn't do it. So she was like, "Will you fill in for me?" So I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Not a big deal." Didn't realize that was the worst mistake of my young comedy career. So I drive to Columbus. The show's supposed to start at 10 o'clock. Thursday night. It's wall-to-wall black people. There's probably 300 black people in this place. And I am not an urban comic. And I don't like that term, but I'm not an urban comic. Like either you get my jokes or you don't. I'm not switching. I'm not throwing in dog and all that other. I'm not doing that. There's plenty of other comics. I'm not going to do that. I'm not knocking anybody who does, but that's just not my style. Right. So, mind you, it's supposed to start at 10 o'clock. It's 11:15. And they're just now starting the show. And I'm like, what the fuck? So the host of the show is a local radio DJ. And this dude does probably 20 minutes of just talking, not even comedy, just opens the show, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, oh, what the hell? Like, I still got another 3-hour drive, bro. Like, wrap this shit up. I'm ready to go. So the first comic goes up and he does great. And I was like, yes, this is perfect. His closing joke. I have something for it. I'm going to get it. I'm going to jump on this wave. It's going to be fantastic. And then he's like, all right, before we get to the next comic, let's do a karaoke contest. And I'm like, what?
Oh.
And it's not just any karaoke contest. It's an a cappella karaoke contest from random people in the crowd for concert tickets. And he's like, all right, we got 3 contestants. They're all going to sing songs a cappella. And I want you to pull out your keys. And that's how we're going to judge them. If they're no good, I want everybody to shake their keys.
What?
And of course, none of them are good. So it's 300 black people just shaking keys. I'm in the back going, what is happening to my life? Like, how did I get here? So after 20 more minutes of karaoke and key shaking, he's like, all right, we're going to start the show back. Let's give it up for your next comic. And I literally walk out to just a room full of people. Ching, 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 ching.
Oh, God.
And I'm so heartbroken at this point because I was like, I already had a feeling I wasn't going to do well. But now I know in my mind I'm not going to do well, right? So I go out, I tell my first joke, and I get nothing. Just a bunch of keys, and I'm like, all right, come on, y'all, give me a chance, And I'm probably 3 jokes in, and all I hear is boo, key shake. So I just snap. I go, fuck you guys, this is bullshit. This show's supposed to start at 10 o'clock. I already got paid. I don't give a fuck. How don't y'all niggas got work tomorrow? Like, I'm going off.
Take them keys, go the fuck home, man.
Like, I'm going off. I'm like, where's the light? I'm supposed to do 15 minutes. I got to 7 minutes. And I was just like, you know what? Screw this. I've already been paid. I'm out of here. I dropped the mic. And Gary Owen was the headliner that night. Man. And I'm sure he ripped me a brand new asshole, but I didn't stay to find out. They came, they got the mic, and I literally, I made a beeline straight to my car, and I drove all the way home hating myself. It was the worst show I've ever seen in my entire life. And I've been doing it for 14 years. It was brutal.
Who the fuck
Absolutely brutal.
Like, I don't understand the logic of that. It's like, oh, we're at a comedy show, so let's do karaoke because that's something that people like.
Dude, I'm telling you, like, I've never seen it anywhere else. I don't even understand like, why would you do that to your talent? You know what I mean? Like, I've been to shows where they do comedy and then they do music. Nobody just breaks out a karaoke contest, especially after the first it made no sense.
And to top it off,
whatsoever.
you gave them a gimmick with the keys. Like now that's gonna follow everyone.
Dude, it was so fucking brutal. I cried in the car. I was so upset. I was so mad. Like, I wanted to quit. I literally because it was literally all you heard was boo, boo. It's like, come on, y'all. Like,
damn.
I had no chance. It was hilarious. It's funny now, but dude, I was so hurt.
Did you ever have like flashbacks? Somebody's getting ready to leave with the keys. Yo, what the fuck? You got a problem? Oh, I'm a piece of shit.
It was brutal.
That was a good one. That I feel sorry for you on that one, man.
Oh man, I wish I kind of wish I'd have stayed just to hear the jokes Gary Owen had for me, because I'm sure he lit me up, and I bet it was funny as hell to the rest of the crowd, because I ate such a huge dick on that stage. It was so bad.
Oh god! All right, Deon, dude, it's been a genuine pleasure having you here, man. I really enjoyed getting to talk to you, and I'm super, super grateful that you were so generous with your time today on a Sunday, on the Lord's Day. But, I just want to say thank you again from the bottom of my heart for coming on talking to me. And
absolutely.
Before we get out of here, do you have anything you want to plug or promote?
When are you dropping this?
So this one's going to be this coming Thursday.
Okay, so this coming Thursday, I will be in St. Louis with Miss Pat. We'll be at Helium Comedy Club. So all your listeners in St. Louis, come check that out. The week after that, August 6th through the 9th, I will be in Buffalo, New York. And also check out my Facebook Live show, Now That's Debatable, with Sydney Smith, Stan Pearson, and myself, Deon Curry. That's every Monday night at 9 p.m. on Facebook Live. You can like the fan page, Now That's Debatable, to check out that show. And follow me on social media. All my social media is at BrightFame4. So that's everything: Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Xbox Live. All my shit's the same.
All right, man. You guys heard it here. So big thanks to you, Deon. If I could actually get my words out, that'd be nice. And that's
I appreciate you having me on, man.
Hey, man,
anytime.
It's been a pleasure. I figured nowadays with the quarantine, a lot of people would normally be a lot busier, maybe looking for something to do, and I just started reaching out. So, and you were kind enough to respond.
Absolutely. I love doing shows like this, and I appreciate you having me on.
Hey, man, my pleasure. So, all right. That's it. That was my conversation with Deon Curry. Cool dude, funny guy. I highly suggest you check him out on both his shows. Again, I'm really grateful that he took the time to come talk to me. It was a fun conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Make sure you go follow Deon. His tag is right here. Check him out on IG. And again, listen to his shows, and shout out to him. Thanks for coming on. I don't have anything else to promote, so you guys already know where to find us, APodAmongstMen@gmail.com. If you have any questions, any suggestions, you want to come on the show, hit me up. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Make sure you get the show on YouTube for the full video, which you're watching now. And if you're listening, make sure you download and stream the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. Peace.